The Secrets of Disney is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's there, Mama?
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
How do you do?
How do you do what?
Show me the smile.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Very nice. You can sit by me.
Everything's so wonderful.
Come on, get up. Come on, get up.
Where are we going?
Up to Neverland.
You must kiss me.
Excuse me?
Please, princess.
One kiss.
Unless you beg for more.
Hi, I'm Deborah Shaban, and you're listening to The Secrets of Disney, where we talk about everything from Disney, from theme parks to movies to shows. We delve deep into tips, information, and fun discussion as we explore the intersection of pop culture and faith. Today, we're discussing what we're going to do when all of this is opening back up. So we're going to talk about vacation and all I ever wanted. Joining me today on the panel are Lisa Hendy. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Deborah.
And David Hanlos. Hello, David.
Hello.
And this week it was David's birthday, so I wanted to wish him a happy birthday. I know it was a couple days ago, but we got to participate in a fun. I got to help him with his wife with a surprise video for him, so it was nice to say happy birthday to him in his video.
That was awesome.
David, my husband's birthday was this week too.
Oh, wow.
Wednesday. And last night we had a huge Zoom call with all of our family. So it was super fun. Birthdays and the COVID. Did your family make you like a button to wear around the house that day that said, it's my birthday? Like when you go to Disneyland, did they give you?
No, but they just, they took me to the living room and my wife had compiled a birthday video with my parents, my siblings, my friends, including Deborah, all saying happy birthday one after the other.
Aww.
And after that, I was just like, let's call it good. That's pretty much everything. That I could have called it at the end of the day. That would have worked. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
No, and I felt bad because I had I think I was like the 11th hour. Monica, is it too late to do this? Because it was like, yeah, I was the late person, but I'm glad it turned out.
But she was totally ninja. I was in the same room while she was editing it.
Oh, that's so funny.
I didn't even notice. She was.
So we're going to, because we are in strange times indeed, my friends. We're going to talk about the glimmer of light at the end of this tunnel, which is what are we going to do when it all opens up and we can go, I can show you the world again. So we just as we're recording this, obviously this is a space of time and things change rapidly around here. We are going to discuss what it might look like for when the parks reopen, what that might. There's a lot of speculation, but there's also a lot of guidelines that were just released in Florida, and we could talk about that for California as well. And we want to talk about, once we are able to travel, where do we want to go? Do we want to start with that? Once we're able to travel again, where do we want to go? Are you planning to travel right away, or are you going to lay low for a little bit still? So I guess I'll start with David. David and I live in the same state. We live in Nebraska, and his county is getting to open up a little before my county is, actually. Because he lives in the Omaha metro area, and I live in Lincoln, and we have different types of situations going on here. But David, had you and your family talked about where you want to go, or if you want to go somewhere once you're allowed to kind of travel about?
To be honest, my bar's pretty low. We have a couple neighbors we usually just grill out with every weekend. Like, can we at least go to there? Yeah, I haven't thought very far past the end of the block. But I mean, in the long, Disney or something like that would be great. But at this point, we're like would like to see our families, my father-in-law, my parents. It's going to be a while before that happens.
Do you guys have an actual date though, like that you get to like lifting of your orders?
We're going phase 1. Well, David's going phase 1 on Monday of this next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and then my parents' county, which is out in the southwest part of the state, was supposed to go phase 1, and then they had kind of a bit of a lot more people coming forward with COVID-19. So the governor pushed that back another week.
Mm-hmm.
And then David and I both had really good news this past week, which is the diocese of both Omaha and Lincoln have started offering masses starting the 10th of May. And that's kind of like, ooh, a glimmer of hope. Okay.
Yeah.
So this part of the state, half the state will open up this week, and then the other half will open slowly, with restaurants at 25% capacity, 50% capacity. A lot of retail businesses in small towns were still open because they were deemed essential. So most of the stuff, I'm starting to see businesses open a little more, but you'll see restaurants probably in a few weeks open back up to 25, 50% capacity.
Wow. Yeah, I think in Omaha, it's going to be about 50. They're aiming for 50. So it's basically take out half the tables and chairs, spread out, and everyone has to wear masks. And actually, it's the same in churches too. They're going to, everyone has to be every other pew. Our church nearby doesn't. The attendance isn't huge, so to be honest, that won't be a problem. It might make us look bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be spread out, every other pew, and we'll have to wear masks. So see how that goes.
So we're slowly getting back to normal here in the middle of the United States, and it'll be a while. But how's things out in California right now?
It's so different out here. So our official order expires on the 16th of May, but it's very likely to be extended. Just as a retrenching, like just today, our governor announced statewide closure of beaches and parks. So I live in Los Angeles, and our beaches have been closed, but this past weekend we had a heat wave, and everybody from LA went to the adjoining counties, Orange County and Ventura County, to go to the beach. And so that caused problems. And so now all the beaches and all the parks in California are closed. And interestingly, so they have been talking about reopening, after the 16th and what that will look like. But our graded system lumps masses into the public gatherings with things like sporting events. Or large gatherings. And so that's actually in phase 3, which they're saying could be like months from now. So I have not seen anything official from the Archdiocese, but I don't think we're going to be back in real mass for quite some time. So yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Very different.
I would add that, I would say that, the Lincoln and Omaha Archdiocese, the diocese, they're going to start offering masses, but they still have the whole dispensation of, if you're, you don't have to come. If you're sick, don't come. If you're over 60, and if you're over 60 and you have any complications, definitely don't come.
Yeah, there's still, and there's, like I said, our county right now, because I live in a different county than, I live, 40 miles away from Omaha? I don't know. Anyway,
give or take.
Yeah, about an hour away. Yeah. And the mayor of our city is actually saying she might not permit churches to go on here in Lincoln. So I've heard a couple of Catholics like, we'll just go to another county. We're just going to go leave town and go to mass in a country church somewhere, which is their choice. We won't know until next week. I feel like people in Nebraska are starting to kind of relax a little bit. I don't know if that's just me seeing that or if that's the general consensus, but who knows? But that brings me to... Oh, go ahead, David.
Same here.
Same here.
I said the same here. Just like, I don't know if it's... probably still feels too soon to relax, but people are starting to relax.
And that brings up, we were talking about Lisa in California, and, and there's this whole big question mark, because this is a Disney podcast, when is Disney going to open back up, and how's that going to look? And, would you be willing to go if you had to make certain, if they made certain accommodations, which you have to adhere to. To preface this is that they've been trying out some ideas in Shanghai. So Shanghai Disney's been open for a while now. I don't believe the whole park is open, just bits and pieces. So the resorts are open. They're taking temperatures. You have to present health cards to get into restaurants. You have to, be willing to have your temperature taken, and of course masks. And then they're trying out the social distancing queues. So they have all the queue lines will have, X's and spots to stand, and that's where Disneyland in Shanghai is kind of the testing ground for all of those measures.
I can't imagine that in terms of, Deborah, have you been to Disneyland in California?
Yes, many times.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine some place like, Fantasyland, where it's one of the oldest sections of the park and it's very compact. And, even on a light day, you feel like you're in a can of sardines walking around there. And some of those attractions, the lines, you're waiting in line for this little dinky ride that's going to be, 2 minutes long. And if you don't have a fast pass, you're in line for quite some time. And the lines basically wrap back and forth. I just don't know how they're going to put, how they're going to put like people 6 feet apart. That would put about maybe 20 people
in the queue. And what they're thinking about doing in Florida, as opposed to maybe they'll do this in California too. It might look very different at East Coast versus West. And this could also go for sporting events, baseball and football and all those big arena type events. How are they going to look with social distancing queues and seating? How's that all going to look? Well, in Florida, they're talking about the same thing with restaurants, where it's like they're going to operate at maybe 25 to 50% of park capacity to begin with. And I also heard rumors, and this is can I not speak today? Unsubstantiated that they might open up, and this could go for California too, to Florida residents only at first. Same with California. If they open up the parks, say June 1st rolls around and they decide to open up Disneyland in California, would they open it just to California residents for like a month just to see what happens at half capacity? And would you have to stay in a resort at Disneyland in order to be able to go into the park? Like, were they going to give them preferential treatment?
And special pins and patches and bumper stickers for
right
ceremonial popcorn boxes for
right. Well, and
COVID re-entry days.
I hope so. They already have they rolled out the masks today. Did you see that?
No. Oh my gosh, I've got to get on that. That's awesome.
So Japan had already had masks in place way before pandemic, viruses, blah, blah, blah. So Japan, it was part of their custom. If you're sick, or if you feel like you're going to get sick, or if there's something going on, it was very normal to see people with masks on in the park. And they had Disney themed masks that they sold in the parks for anybody to buy. And this was, years worth of that. Is from what I've been hearing, is that you could buy a Disney themed mask while you're in Tokyo. And so I'm wondering, today they launched a whole bunch of masks here in the United States, and it was like a Star Wars pack of 4, and one of them was, of course, Baby Yoda. And then, of course, because, and then there was a Marvel one, and one of them was Incredible Hulk. And then there was...
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at them right now. It looks like it's $19.99 for a 4-pack.
Yeah.
So
and I also have been scanning, since I do a lot of looking at Disney t-shirts and stuff like that, I get all those special advertisements on Facebook, like, oh, check out my Disney store, at this weird, company, those ads that you get to see because and so I've been seeing Disney themed masks for 6 weeks now from these different companies, kind of Etsy looking masks. They're really cool, and I've almost wanted to buy them. There's a Haunted Mansion one that I want to buy, and it was $20. I'm like, I'm not buying that for $20. I'll make one for less than that.
Right.
So you're going to be seeing, that's going to be the latest trend. And that could be, you conditional. If you want to go to the theme parks, are you willing to, especially in Florida, this could be a problem, willing to put your children over the age of 7 in a mask all day in order to go to the theme parks? Are you?
It's hard to get kids under 7 to keep a mask on.
Right. Well, and that's what they're saying is like, how do we force children under 7 to keep a mask on? We can't really ask them to do that.
Interestingly, so we have a trip booked right now. We were supposed to be going a week or two ago with our kids that live up in Northern California. And we had to reschedule, but we rescheduled for the middle of September. And I booked a hotel and a ticket package. And nowhere in any of the booking experience was there anything about like, what if ... It was just sort of like as if you were just scheduling a regular visit. So right. I will say that my daughter-in-law, who actually already had hotel rooms booked for this trip that we were supposed to do when all this hit, when their tickets were canceled or postponed, they were given a free night, like an extension of their stay. Ooh. So we'll see if that happens this time around. But
right, and here's the thing: is will you personally, if they ask to take your temperature prior to even checking into the hotel or prior to even going to the theme park, are you willing to do all the things that are required to go into, by whatever government oversight to go into that theme park?
If you're asking me, I'll say yes, because I've been doing that here. Like today I had a podiatry appointment and it was kind of hilarious because I had to walk through 2 different buildings to get into my appointment. And I had my temperature taken twice by 2 different people. So, I mean, it's pretty quick. And although I don't know if they'll do it like when they have you walk through the metal detectors, will they do it then? What happens if you already have your ticket and you've paid and you spike a fever? Right. You get your money back. So there's a lot of like kind of unknowns about that. So,
right. I got to say that if they opened up Walt Disney World on June 1st and I had the wherewithal and the money to actually get there June 1st, I would totally be like first in line, like let me in. Because I'm not that I haven't been doing my best with my mask. I have a mask for I have masks for social occasions now. So I have like color coordinated masks, and I'm planning to make Disney masks for specific outfits for my next trip. I'll get into that later. So, if you remember Sherry from my other podcast we had with her last year, she and I have been coordinating our Disney mask attack scenario. Like, if we're going to Disney in October, I just bought a ticket for October, and we have to wear masks. What theme masks are we going to make? So, yeah, I've already, I have a Orange Bird t-shirt, and I know, David, this is totally very Disney geeky that you're like Orange Bird, what is that? So there is a citrus place in Adventureland, and they do it's not a little how aisle, it is they sell Orange Whip, and they have a cute little orange bird, and now it's kind of like everywhere at Walt Disney World. They have it t-shirts and all that, and so I'm gonna make a little mask to go with my Orange Bird t-shirt, and yeah, I'm gonna be weird like that. I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I'd be willing to go in first and, first place, if they would let me. But, one of the things they've been talking about with this in Florida for sure, because I know Florida rolled out a whole bunch of stuff just in the last couple of days where it's like, you have to do this. One of the things is they want all the railings being wiped down as they're being used. I'm like, oh.
How does that practically work?
Yeah, we don't know. We have no idea how. Is there going to be somebody in line all day long just wiping down railing? Also, somebody's like, well, what about the theater shows? Are we going to, cram in all these people into a theater, or is that going to have to wait until much later? Like, you can get into specific rides or, but certain things will be off limits. Like, Adventureland, Lisa brought up the whole Adventure or Fantasyland rides. Those are notoriously small queue lines. Do we want to even open them up? If it means people being shoved together in a small little space together. Lots of different things going on, speculation. But it sounds like Florida's getting ready. Florida's getting ready for maybe a June-ish or July opening. But, had you thought about, any of you thought about doing something more local for vacations now that maybe you don't want to get an airplane with a whole bunch of people who may or may not be contagious, but have you thought about doing anything local this summer?
I'm the wrong person to ask because me and I would jump on an airplane like at the drop of a hat. And my first trip will definitely be to see my parents in Chicago, which actually, because they're in assisted living, it's going to be a while before I can do that. But, it's interesting living here that you bring up this question of local things. And I've been really interested in, and I haven't acted on it yet, but there's so much stuff in our community that I want to do in LA so that when people come out here, I can kind of be a better tour guide. And one thing I'm doing actually just tomorrow, it's a virtual thing, but there's a virtual tour tomorrow of the sites in La La Land, the movie. Ooh. That's one of my favorite movies. And so they're using Google Earth to do like a flyover of all these different sites and then showing a screening of the movie. So I'm doing stuff like that. And there's so much stuff out here that you can do without, within half an hour drive. So it's easy to do that once things start reopening a little bit. But for us right now, still, we're not really supposed to be out unless we have something official that we're going to.
Yeah. I think Nebraska has a little more leverage with that, or a little more freedom of movement in this state because I'm like, I guess I could probably go to Colorado if I wanted to right now. If I had a place to stay, I'm sure there's things to do out there. I think that's if you're in the Midwest, Colorado and Kansas City for Nebraskans is like the two hot spots, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Probably not the best. Probably not a term we'll normally use for now.
Hot spots. I'm sorry. Too soon. Yeah. It's going to be a little bit different, but then those of us who are old enough to remember what happened after 9/11 and how security measures changed at airports, and before you knew it, we were taking off shoes and taking off belts, and now that's just kind of normal everyday flight behavior is to take your shoes off as you're going through X-ray, right?
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about that. Where there's some of this is probably going to stick around, be the new normal to some extent, just because. Yeah, and I mean, I was born and raised on a military base, and so we went from we used to just drive in and out of it as if it was just another town,
right?
For the first couple of decades of my life, but all of a sudden in 2000 and after 9/11, boom, you needed IDs to get in and out, and sometimes into different parts of the base once you're already on the base. Yeah, things have never quite gone back.
Right. Well, and one of the Disney things that we don't know the answer to yet is character meet and greets. So will you be able to hug Mickey Mouse if you take your kids, or even get close enough to take a picture with any of your characters? That's one of the big questions right now is, how will social distancing affect that kind of aspect of going to Disney or going to anywhere where there's something to that effect, like Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know if they have characters around Chuck E. Cheese, but something like that.
We should have been wearing masks in Chuck E. Cheese a long time ago, I'll just say, in terms of the germ level.
I tell you what, if you survive Chuck E. Cheese, especially in the 80s, you probably can survive this virus. The ball pit of Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh. I went there when it was Showbiz Pizza.
Oh.
Yeah, I might be immune. Who knows?
You have the antibody.
Yeah, the robotic gorilla always coming after us.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But those are some things that we have heard about Disney. as far as it's all speculation right now because they've been given a list of things that they have to comply with or that are guidelines, and that the speculation is that that Disney will add its own rules and regulations too on top of that. Will they have like the one-way lines like you see in the grocery stores, where you can't go this way, you have to go that way? I could see that happening.
Ironically, with all the extra provisions that we have here, we don't have that. I've been hearing about that in other places, but it's not out here yet. So
it's certain places here in Nebraska, like Hy-Vee, one of our grocery store chains here, has it, but Target does not. And every time I go into Target, it's like, I don't have to like worry about social snafu or, where it's like, oh, I'm going the wrong way down an aisle and people are looking at me funny. And it's just a weird social convention that I'm not used to and nobody else is used to yet.
I think one of the other things that I've been thinking about lately is just in terms of aftermath of coronavirus, people have been just solidly hit financially by this thing. And so, despite all the precautions and everything, I think a lot of people it's going to be a while before people can financially undertake something like a Disney trip. So that's definitely also something to consider.
Well, and here's the other thing is if your kids have been out of school for 2 months now at home, playing on your lap as you're trying to work or playing around you, and you've all been spending a very long time together, and they open up schools in the fall, like September, end of August here in Nebraska, would you be willing to take your kids out of school to go to Disney, or you're like, no, you've been out of school long enough, you're staying in school? And that
stay there.
We don't want you. But then I could see that being also a factor too, is that their kids have been out of school for so long that when schools open up in the fall, the children will be very eager to go back and get back to that. Or I'd assume so. And the parents too. I don't know. I don't have kids, so I can't speak to that, but I just assume that's once school starts up, people will be less likely to take their kids on a vacation during the school year, unless it's a holiday.
Right. I think people are just trying to get back. I mean, we've been on a vacation from normal so long at this point. I think we're ready to get back to something, of normal.
Yeah, so you're right. And I hate to say this, and it's one of the negative things about Disney that, we all kind of grit our teeth and go, well, we can't do anything. While they've been shut down, Disney has raised prices on a couple different things, including food. So they changed the menu and raised food prices for some of their restaurants. And so, it might be a little more expensive to take that Disney trip now. And it is what it is. But that's kind of depressing. Anyway, so Lisa, I have a question for you. And this is, David already answered it. But what is the first thing you want to do when you get to Disney? Like, what's the thing you're looking forward to the most right now?
Oh, that's a great question. So this trip that we have planned is a family trip, and it's going to be for my son's birthday. And the traditional thing that we do usually when we go to Disneyland, like the very first thing that we do is jump on the train and take a ride around the park and just have an overview of it. And I'm so anxious just to kind of like relive a tradition. And that's going to be really, really fun to do that. And we'll be there for 3 days. So we'll have lots of time and park hopper tickets so we can go back and forth, but just kind of to do some of the regular stuff. Because I think one thing about this time that we're living in is that life just doesn't feel normal. And everything, David and I were just chatting about, even something as simple as succumbing to having your temperature taken to walk into a building, like wasn't normal 2 months ago. And now it's like, oh, I just do it, and I don't even think about it. And so something that's normal there will be a joy. So my favorite things are going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to the smell. I'm wondering though, I will say one thing that I've sort of even been having a visceral reaction watching TV programs where I see crowds of people. Like I find myself even after a month of this, just being like, oh, they're not, they're so close together and like they're not social distancing. And like, am I going to feel that way? I don't tend to be like a germaphobe, so I think I won't be, but I think it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for a little while to just like being in big crowds again. I
got worked up just watching a Hallmark movie with my wife where where this couple is dancing together in a crowd. I'm like, no. Oh, wait, never mind. It's okay.
Well, and they have talked about like what's fireworks going to look like? What's a parade going to look like? When people are lined up for like the 4th of July parades in your town, how close together are they going to be allowed to stand, or are they gonna place themselves in a sense and say you're too close to me and try to manage their distance as a concerned citizen rather than a government mandate, I guess. So Disney's still working with those questions too. How do we show fireworks when 40,000 people are standing in one spot looking up at the sky? So these are, and that's also a question for like I said, our summer. Whether you're in small towns in Nebraska where they do their own fireworks show, every little town has its fireworks show and their own 4th of July parade or whatever, Hog Day parade or whatever is going on. Are there, how's this going to look? And we don't know. We have no idea. I know that. Yeah. Go ahead, Lisa. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing. If you want to have something, I'm going to put this link in our chat so that you can check it out, guys. But one thing that if you want to have a little peek at the way things are right now out here in California, there's a YouTuber who is a helicopter pilot who does a lot of interesting flyover things in California. And he actually did a flyover last week over at Disneyland, which is very unique because normally when the park is open, the airspace is shut down over the park. So he did a low, I think he was like less than 3,000 feet above the ground in the helicopter and did a slow flyover over the park. It's very like different to see that aerial view of the park in broad daylight with nobody in there. And it just made me think about, those dreams that we've all had if we're Disney lovers of having a day where you're just in the park all by yourself and what that would be like. And I think that when they reopen the parks, it'll obviously be on this like kind of gradated basis. And so maybe it's going to be that we go into the parks and they're very low capacity right at first. And how cool will that be?
Well, and, to bring up, I saw a video of Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida, and it was like a custodial person, washing down the sidewalks in the broad daylight. And I'm like, oh, you don't see that happen ever at Disney. But there's a similar video, and maybe I can find it and put it in the show notes if you want to see it. He was in Toy Story Land, which, everything's the size of, you're supposed to be shrunk down to a size of toy. And one of my coworkers is like, oh, look, he looks like a toy. And I'm like, well, that's the point. Effect achieved. So it was a kind of a neat video. But I will answer to something you just said, Lisa, about being in the podcasts. But I used to work graveyard at Disney Hollywood Studios for security. And it is just as magical as you think it is to be alone in a theme park. It is. No. I mean, it is so quiet.
I can't imagine.
Except for occasionally, like they're supposed to turn off the background music, and like on the weekends, sometimes they'll forget to do it, and it's just all the lights are on, all the music is on, and it's just peaceful and beautiful and just as magical as you'd think. It's lovely. Some of my best memories of that time. In fact, okay, so here's something. And so the next time you watch The Golden Girls,
which David has probably never watched The Golden Girls.
Oh, I know pretty much every episode. I'm right there with you.
So they do a cutout of like they have their house in Miami, right? The house that was, and they'll occasionally show the outside of the house, right? The house they're supposed to have lived in, right? That used to be a facade at Disney Hollywood Studios like 20 years ago. That was a facade. And you could drive by it like, here's the Golden Girls house when you're in the backstage studio tour. Well, in the middle of the night, we used to go park across the street at Ernest Worrell's house, which had a fountain and a porte cochere, and we'd be like sitting there looking at the Golden Girls house all night. And so it's stuff like that. I'm like, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, we used to take a nap there. I mean, we used to work really hard. And so it's just as magical as you think. And I can't even tell you the first thing I want to do when I go to Disney World. We usually, probably Magic Kingdom. Like, I love to go on the mountains, and I want to go get a Dole Whip. I'm more of a foodie than a ridey at this point, I guess. There's a lot of things that I have on my to-do list that I can't wait until October is here.
Yeah, so exciting. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. It's going to be so great to get out and go enjoy a little bit of what we enjoyed in the past. So let's hope this happens soon. But until then, I guess this is the time of the program that if you want to tell us what you'd like, what's the first thing you want to do when you go on vacation? If you're going to go on vacation, where do you want to go when you're allowed to go there? And if you're going to Disney, what is the first thing you like to do when you go to Disney? We'd love to hear it. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible to create this Secrets of Disney. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give makes it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Disney and all of the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to subscribe to our shows on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on SQPN YouTube channel. And also to find us in our previous episodes of Secrets of Disney, and to send us feedback, including your answers to what do you want to do this summer when you're finally able to do it? Are you going to Disney? What do you want to do when you get to Disney? Send that feedback to us. You can visit us at sqpn.com/Disney. You can email us at disney@sqpn.com. Follow us on StarQuest on our social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or on our Twitter at SQPN. Next time we will be back, and I think we're going to be discussing heroes and villains for our next week's topic. Until then, I know we're going to let you sit with that for a second and think about your heroes and villains. Until then, David Henlos, thank you for joining me on this, for sharing the Secrets of Disney, and Lisa Hendy, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And once again, I'm Deborah Shaven, and thank you for listening to The Secrets of Disney on StarQuest. And ta-ta for now.